Veterans Voices writing projects has been showcasing the creative expression of military's veterans since 1952. From what I understand, and we'll hear more from Ted Iliff. Is it Iliff or Iliff?
Iliff, you got it.
Iliff. And this session of Spotlight on Spirit is going to dive a little bit deeper, if we could, into Veterans Voices. It's a nonprofit organization. This podcast is being recorded at the beginning of December, and I found a poem that was written by a Robert Brumfield at the VA Medical Center. Brumfield at the VA Medical Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. I want to read it to you to start us off. Robert writes, "Celebrate. Once again, the temple is cleansed. History written in the blood of the Maccabees. Annually, we light the menorah from our abundance. Never again the sanctuary devoid of incense. Under the canopy, we now can be wed. Keep the children with the dreidel entertained. Knowing the enemy, we were victorious. A maiden with cheese brought down from the Syrians. Happily, now we stand united." And our Jewish brothers and sisters are celebrating, or will be celebrating, Hanukkah. And so, Ted, if you could, can you tell me a little bit about Veterans Voices Writing Project?
Sure. It actually started in 1946 at the VA hospital in Chicago. A group of women, small group of women, decided that guys who were returning from the war, World War II, could use some help. Some of them were suffering from shell shock, or what we now call PTSD, and other ailments. And these ladies thought that writing could be a very helpful and effective form of therapy.
Yeah.
So they encouraged the veterans there at the Chicago VA to start writing in writing groups, and they would critique them and so on. Just anything, just to get them writing. And some of them would write about nothing to do with military. Some of them would write about their military service. So over the years, as this became more and more popular and more effective, the founders then moved to Kansas City, and they found that they had enough stuff in 1952, like you mentioned, to start the magazine. It's published 3 times a year, spring, summer, and fall. But they made the caveat that it was only for veterans. Only veterans could be published in the magazine. There are plenty of other outlets for other folks, caregivers, relatives, and so on. But they insisted on only veterans, and we have held it to this day. So since 1952, it started out as something that being printed out and then in their homes and so on, and eventually went to a magazine format and slick and everything. So now we are publishing like you showed, like a regular magazine 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And we send copies to all 1,500 VA medical centers in the United States.
Oh my!
We also have subscriptions and authors and prior authors and so on. But that's the bulk of our circulation.
Oh my
and
goodness!
we're still only veterans. We have added a veterans writing group that's been established here in Kansas City since 2012, Kansas City Veterans Write. And so what we're hoping is that as they transition into part of our organization, we'll get more veterans to write, and we'll get that input and that content as well.
Oh my goodness. Spotlight on Spirit is hosted by the Department of Minnesota American Legion.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the American Legion was wanting to partner with Veteran Voices to do that, is there an opportunity to do that?
Yes, for sure. The simplest thing is to reach out to members who are veterans and who are either writing now or want to write.
Okay.
Form a writing group to kind of give them a social component of their writing, so they're not writing alone, and give them some critique, someone who can gently give them some advice on how to improve their writing, poetry, prose, and now we also do art, photography, and so on.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, sorry. You can do that, and when they start producing writing, The submission system is online on veteransvoices.org. All they have to do
Okay.
is copy and paste what they've done. They register and then copy and paste what they've done into our submission system, and that's it. We got it. And from there, we take a look at it. I edit the prose, and Tina Hacker has been for a long time editing the poetry. She's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an art curator, Tracy Cheng, who now takes a look at the art that's submitted to make sure it's okay for publication. And then we get it all together, and we try to publish as much as we can, and we try to leave it alone as much as we can.
Oh,
So that
sure.
we understand that this is a veteran's product. This is their personal creation.
Yeah.
And we don't want to bigfoot it with a bunch of needless editing and rewriting and things like that. So we don't accept everything. We try to accept as much as possible, and we try to leave it alone as much as possible.
Okay. And so it sounds like Veterans Voices is really designed as an outlet, but it's also a place where if you want to improve your ability to communicate in that medium, Veterans Voices might have some assistance to help you.
We help people. We help groups form writing groups. If they want some advice and so on, we have some things that some tips on how to do it. And then we leave them alone because the writing groups tend to be localized, and a writing group in Texas might have different priorities than a writing group in Minnesota. And so we just urge them to write. And we say that the reasons for writing are basically threefold. One is for therapy. It's just to either start writing about things that have been held inside for years or decades.
Yeah.
Or journaling, archiving, to record what the writer has done in military service as a part of history.
Right.
Because we're losing those stories. The Vietnam veterans now, we're losing them, and we're losing all of their stories.
Yeah.
And the third thing is just for creative expression, just for the fun of writing. And we have a lot of veterans who say, "Oh, I can't write. I don't know how to write." Well, you probably do. And you need a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help, and you can probably write something that we would be very interested in.
So you help them take what's probably been floating around in their brain and put it into writing, or maybe
it can be 200 words. It can be 1,000 words. It can be 4 lines of poetry, or a whole page of poetry. Whatever they feel like doing. Non-military, they can write about going fishing with their dad when they were a kid, or what their neighborhood is like now, or their favorite pet, or anything like that, just to get them writing. And what we find is that some veterans, their first or second or third effort will be about something that has nothing to do with their military service. But then the fourth or the fifth one comes, and all of a sudden they're starting to talk about things that it's obvious they haven't liked to talk about or haven't chosen to talk about ever.
Yeah. The written word is a vulnerable experience also, isn't it? Because you're now wanting to share something that gives meaning to you or informs who you are.
Right. And that's why we treat it so gently. I mean, I was a copy editor my entire career as a journalist. Most of my career as a journalist. And that kind of editing, you had to pretty well, lean on people every once in a while. This is not the case. We can be as gentle as possible. I mean, this is somebody's ego that they're putting on a page.
Right.
And we don't want to stomp on that. We want to encourage that and leave it as pure as it was possibly as pure as we can, and present what they wrote. The other thing that happens is when we do that, and when we publish something from a veteran, then other veterans read the magazine and say, "Well, I can do that," or "Wow, I had an experience like that," or "Wow, I really sympathize with that person," or whatever. And that there's a snowball effect that other veterans are tempted to or encouraged to write as well.
Yeah. Humans, we tend to think that we're individuals, but our need for connection overrides everything that we do, doesn't it?
The veteran learned that we're not individuals if they were in combat.
Yeah.
There are no individuals in combat. You're with your buddy. You're with your squad. You're with whatever. And if they realize that by writing they are attaching themselves to another group like that, then they have comrades, and they have sympathizers in a way, and they have people who are empathizers, I should say, then that has a knock-on effect by itself.
Yeah. And it has a cathartic result, just the act of writing, from
Yeah.
what I understand.
What I tell writers is you go for you're writing and you're writing and you're writing, and it's okay, fine. You got your words, you're going down on the screen or whatever, and then you have what I call that oh wow moment, where you
Oh,
put something down on the screen or on paper, but mostly on the screen, and
hmm,
you look at it and you say, "Wow, where did that come from?" And it's really cool. And
right.
then you've crossed a threshold. Then you've gone a
Ah,
little bit farther than you had up to that point. And that's when people really kind of almost get addicted, waiting for that next oh wow moment to happen in their writing.
oh. So it's almost like your unconscious has an outlet to
Yep,
speak to you.
yep. And there are times. I mean, I'm a writer. I've written some books and so on.
Uh
And there
huh.
are times when I've written something and I all of a sudden, wow,
Uh
that's really
huh.
cool. I really like that. And I had no idea where it came from. It just kind of splattered out there onto the screen.
It was finally given some medium to share and communicate.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. And so, how are you funded?
We are strictly on donations. We
Uh
have
huh.
some generous foundations and organizations that can contribute. We have
Okay.
subscriptions, $35 a year for 3 issues, and that's basically it. We exist on the generosity of people who like what they're seeing with Veterans Voices.
Which is wonderful because you said that you send a hard copy. I'm assuming it's
Yes.
printed,
Yep.
like the one that I have,
Yep.
to the VA's medical centers. And so the cost of printing keeps increasing.
And we have people who have contributed money to us specifically to help defray the costs
Mm,
of printing. So we're in relatively good shape, and we can always use more money.
good.
We're a volunteer board of about 9 or 10 people,
Hmm.
and we have a staff of one part-time office person, and that's it. So all the stuff that we do is on board members, and it's a volunteer basis.
Looking through the magazine and I talked with, you had a couple representatives at our annual national convention in New
Yep.
Orleans. And human beings, we tend to think that we're either cognitive or physical, and then we have the spiritual piece. But writing is a holistic experience, as are so many other things that we do in this world,
Sure.
where who we are as spiritual beings, that purpose, that value, that
Yep.
connection really just evidences itself
It's
in what
it's
you would like.
just the stories are all there, particularly with veterans. Every
Yeah.
veteran has stories, and
Yep.
and when I'm at the conventions, and I go every year to the VFW and the American Legion conventions, and we also
Hmm.
do other outreach efforts as well. A veteran will come up to the table, and I'll say, "I know you're a veteran. I know you got stories," and they'll go, "Oh no, I really don't have any stories." And
Hmm.
their wife will be standing next to them and going, rolling their eyes, going, "Oh yes, he does."
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I try to recruit the spouse as sort of someone to get it's mostly men to get them to write. Now we are getting more and more women writing,
Yeah.
and that is a revelation unto itself. And that's what I really, really am pushing when I meet with veteran groups and so on, because veteran women who are veterans, they have stories to tell that are unique, and
Oh,
they're not easy.
they're not
Some of them
easy.
are, but they are stories that need to be told. And there's a group where a woman writes about something that happened to her during her service, not combat, just in service.
Mm.
And two or three other women will say, "Oh, same thing happened to me," or "I got something even worse," and they'll write something about it. It's mostly revelations about things that have happened to them that were rather ugly. Not always, but
Yeah.
that seems to motivate a lot of women now to start talking about the things that they never talked about when they were in the service or afterward.
That connection, we just can't escape it, can we?
Nope,
And then knowing that you're not the only one brings you
exactly,
into
exactly.
a possible healing, because the goal is to heal.
Yes,
We're
that
not
was the
just
purpose,
sharing.
original purpose of the magazine, original purpose of the organization was to
Yeah.
help veterans heal.
Yeah.
We have to. We don't push that really hard. We always mention it now, but
Hmm.
a lot of times a veteran will come up to me and I'll start explaining. Yeah, well, it was started as a form of therapy, and of course the natural human reaction is, well, I don't need therapy.
No.
And so we mention it, and it's important, but we also mention the archiving part, the getting the record of their service, and the fun of writing, and hope we persuade them to get into writing through those reasons and not just therapy.
Yeah, because the Library of Congress has that veteran project also, where they will take the memorabilia also.
There are all kinds of projects around
Yeah.
the country for veterans to tell their stories. Many of them are audio or recorded. They're not written. That is a different mental, emotional function.
Yeah.
And it is a lot, it doesn't have the shelf life a lot of times that writing does. Everything that we put in, and everything in the magazine, all of our magazines are available digitally online at our website. And we're eventually going to have a totally searchable archive, so that if something happens about the USS George Washington, and we can have our readers or whoever go online and search our magazine, see if anybody ever wrote about the USS George Washington, things like that. So we're trying to bring the archiving function into the 21st century. That's an effort, and it's
huge.
expensive, so we're still working on that.
That sounds like a monster of a project, if you will. Huge.
Yeah. We've got some of it done, but most of it we still have to do.
Okay. And so that connection piece, being able to connect. Very nice. And the website is VVWP.org.
No, it's just veteransvoices.org.
Just veteransvoices.org. Veterans Voices, one word.
No, it's veteransvoices.org. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how not only you can see our editions and see what we're doing, but also that in that system, or in that website, is the system for submitting content to the magazine, prose, poetry, or art. So it's in a bit of a reconstruction phase at the moment. We're trying to drag it into the 21st century and get it up to date. But again, that's taking some time, and we'll get there. We're just struggling a little bit to get that done.
And then the artwork. So if someone had, because there's artwork in here too, did they submit the original, or do they submit? What do they do?
They scan it and then send the scan, as long as it's I think it's 600 DPI, as long as it's print quality. A photograph or whatever art they've done, they can scan it and submit it that way. Now, that part of our submission process is undergoing a little bit of a change. They can still do it, but and they should still try. But anyway, that's how you do it: is you scan it and you send it to us. And that was started. We've only been doing that for about 5 years. And there's a former VA head of psychiatry in California, Robert Rubin, who really felt that art should be part of the magazine. And he was generous enough to not only give his time to speak at our annual program to talk about it, but also to fund some of it to help defray the cost of printing the art in the magazine. So it's the newest part of the magazine, but we hope to get a lot more of that. And we're starting now to go to, there are a lot of veterans art fairs around. There's several of them here in the Kansas City area. So we're starting to go to those and reading the magazine and saying, hey, why don't you put some of these in the magazine if you'd like? And so we're trying to get more art in as well.
So I hear that Veterans Voices is just, and I don't mean that lightly, writing, artistic, a form of expression. There isn't follow-up. It is what it is.
And we can. Right. No, as much as we would like to, but we are able to collect the material and curate the material and get it in the magazine and send out acknowledgments to authors and so on. We give small cash prizes to the best of the submissions, but that's about all we can do.
Well, and there's no follow-up. It's like if somebody benefits in a way from writing a poem or writing a story, that's the gift in itself for that person.
We hear about that. We have testimonials from people who've said that writing, and in some cases writing for the magazine, just turned them away from suicide. It can be that effective. But they have to. We don't solicit that. We may there's someday when we have the emails of everybody who submits. Someday we may reach out and try to do some of that, but right now we just aren't capable of doing it.
Sure. Really trusting the person's network of support to benefit, if you will, from them submitting a poem or submitting a story or submitting artwork.
Correct.
You're not following up and saying, "Hey, you need to do this," or "I'm glad to hear that you're now here." Just trusting that the process alone is enough.
Right. We send out a general letter to all the authors after each edition, just thanking them as a group and reminding them of tell your friends and fellow veterans to write and that sort of thing. But that's about as far as we can do right now.
That's beautiful in itself, and it probably gives a lot of veterans the assurance that you're not going to reach too far into what they're willing to share.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll let them sort of guide that process themselves.
Yeah. Sometimes in our current culture, we think we're entitled to reach into a hurting person or someone with experience. And no, you're not entitled to any of that.
There are professional mental health folks, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists on. They can do that, perhaps.
Yeah, that's their job.
We're just there to publish a magazine and help any way we can.
Which is beautiful in itself. How do people volunteer? Do you have paid staff?
Well, like I said, we have one part-time office person, and our board is all volunteer, and it's volunteer after that. People are very generous. It's a lot of work, especially in publishing time when we have to edit and lay out the magazine and get it to the publisher and so on. But we're handling it okay. We're always looking for more help. We've experimented a little bit with internships, college internships.
Oh, sure.
That we just started trying that, and we will try some more. We need to refine how we use interns before we can really give them a meaningful experience at Veterans Voices.
That sounds like a beautiful partnership.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
For many different types of people that are exploring veterans or care or healing or writing. Oh, goodness. That sounds lovely. Yeah. And you're out of Kansas City. And so do people volunteer around the country or only within Kansas City?
Mostly right now, it's only in the Kansas City area.
Okay.
Because that's the contact part of it.
Sure.
We're all Kansas City folks.
Okay. So we get to enjoy, and in any of your VAs, 3 times a year, there's going to be a hard copy.
Should be.
And okay.
Be. We sometimes aren't sure if they're all getting out there, but they're being sent there.
Well, I feel really privileged that I have one now. So it's like, I don't know if I've ever seen one at the VA. So I don't know where they put them out.
Yeah. So that's something we should probably follow up on. We just don't have the resources to do that right now, but we will someday.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how many copies then you could, that's a whole nother field of money that you would have to go into, I suppose, to publish a lot of copies, because the VAs are complex. I know the one in Minneapolis is a large VA, many different disciplines, departments, things of that nature. Right. Yeah.
We know where we would like the issues to go. We just don't know if they're actually getting to that spot or not. So
you can suggest. Where would you like them to go, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, in the waiting rooms of medical staff at the VA.
Oh, okay.
Just where a lot of people come in and sit and they're looking for something to do and they pick up the magazine.
Maybe they disappear.
That could be too. We don't know.
We don't know.
We send them out there, and then we get feedback from some people at some VA medical centers who say, "Oh yeah, I've seen it at this and this and this and this," and we know at least it's getting there. But
that's nice.
It's pretty much an honor system at this point. We just send it out and hope for the best.
I think it's a beautiful gift. Thanks for taking time this afternoon to talk with me about this.
I love doing it.
I like to give the last word to the guest. So is there anything that you'd like to share with us on the podcast?
Only that anyone who is viewing this or hearing this, think about if you're a veteran or the veteran in your life and what you could do to get them to express themselves. even if it's just a one poem or one small story or art or photography, something to express themselves, particularly the older ones who have a lifetime of stories and creative activity stored up in them that could very easily be released with the right kind of encouragement. And just do what you can. And if they feel like doing something, we'd love to see it, and we'll do what we can to get it in the magazine.
Beautiful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.